Hello, my name is Felix, and I have the pleasure to introduce you to DataLink. DataLink is an incredible tool for data-driven tasks that allows you to import data from your Pi system into Microsoft Excel. Let's say I'm a plant manager, and I want to see the key performance indicators of my plants in a form of tables. I would need those information in order to make data-driven decisions. But the real question is, how can I use DataLink to create such a report? Well, let's start with an example. The following report presents two different KPIs table for a windmill farm named Black Mesa Wind Farm. The first one on top of the spreadsheet represents the KPIs over a monthly base, and the second one presented on a daily base. In the first table, I can easily see different attributes of my windmills, such as the actual value of monthly energy, the equivalent of this value but this time last month, and a few other with their respective unit for each of the windmills in my farm. In the second table, you would easily see some similar KPIs, but this time in a daily form. Instead of having the complete list of windmills, you can browse through the different elements that you have by clicking on the list right here. And by selecting another windmill, the data is automatically updated for the windmill you chose. In order to access the different KPIs of the windmills, I've used various functions from DataLink that I'm going to show you in a moment.
Since this is an exercise, I strongly recommend that you follow me and create your own report using the same functions, either with your own data or with the generic database available with the workshop. Feel free to press pause or rewind the video if some steps are just going too fast.
So let's start with a blank spreadsheet. The first thing I would need to do is to define the different data item for which I want to obtain my KPIs. Well, the easiest way to obtain such information within DataLink is to use the search functionality that you find just right there. If I click on the icon, I will have two different options. The first one would be search through my Pi server for the Pi points I'm interested in. But the little problem with that kind of search is that you would need to know every single name of those points. The second option, much easier, is to browse through the hierarchy of your PiEF database in order to find elements that you are looking for. In my case, if I browse into the Windtopia database, then select the Windtopia Generation Fleet and Black Mesa Wind Farm, I will be able to search for a common KPI. Let's say, in my case, the monthly energy actual. This would be my first KPI I'm interested in. What I will be able to do after that is to separate the root path from the data item to present my KPIs in a form of table. In this case, the root path selection represents the different windmill found in my farm, and the data item is the actual KPI value. Once this is selected, I can either import it in a column or row or in a drop-down list. For this one, let's just select the column or row option and import it. All you need to do after that, you can just click on OK. Once this is done, we can select the other KPIs we're interested in. So you can either search for them with the search functionality, or if you know their name, simply write it down like this into the Excel spreadsheet. Once this is done, we can do the same thing, but this time for the daily KPIs. So if I open my search panel, I will be able to select the root path, but this time for the daily KPI. And this time I will select the drop-down list. After that, all we need to do is to add the different KPIs in the table, and we're set as for the data item. Now that this is done, let's get the first value of the first KPI. In this case, it would be the monthly energy actual. In order to obtain the last value for this data item, we'll be using the current value function that returns the latest value from a specific data item of your Pi system. If we click on this function, a panel will open on the right side of the screen. We can see that there is only three sections to be filled. The first one, the root path, is the value we obtained from the search function. In our case, this value also represents the windmill we are interested in. The second one the data item, is the actual KPI. And finally, the last one is the output cell, is where you want the value to be shown. We could simply directly enter the values in the corresponding fields of the function, but it's a lot more practical to use cell references. Cell reference will give you the opportunity to change any parameters of the function directly from your spreadsheet, making your report a lot more dynamic. Once this is done for the first value, you can do the same for the 9 others. Since this is awfully repetitive, let's just do this section in fast forward. The current value function is going to be used also for the monthly energy expected KPI. So let's fill this section for the 10 different windmill unit once again in fast forward. The next KPI we want to obtain the value is the monthly energy last month. This value is simply the equivalent of the monthly energy actual, but exactly a month ago, in order to compare both values together. Since we need to obtain a single value in the past, we will be using the archive value function. If we open this function, we can see that we got pretty much the same parameters as the current value function, but we also have a field called timestamp. This value will correspond at the time at which we want the value to be obtained. So if we use once again the cell reference, we can fill the different parameters. So that item would be monthly energy actual. As for the timestamp, we want the value 1 month ago. So we will be using what we call the PyTime to define it. The equivalent of the PyTime would be an asterisk that will represent now, minus 1 MO. The minus 1 MO represent 1 month ago. So if you want more information on the PyTime, I would strongly recommend you to watch one of our YouTube videos on the subject. Once this is done, simply click OK, and you got your value 1 month ago. Once this is done, we can do the same with the rest of the windmills. So let's just fast forward this part of the video. For the daily KPIs, we will only need the current value function. So let's open a new current value function, and I will show you how to apply it to several data items all at once instead of only one. For the root path, once again, simply link this field to the cell that contains the drop-down list representing the windmills. So as for the data item, instead of selecting only one cell, this time you will select a range of cells that contain different data items. Those data items that in this case represent the daily KPIs. Once this is done, simply click on the OK button and all of your values should appear. All of those values might be really useful, but they are not that much meaningful unless you have the units associated with them. To obtain the engineering units, simply select the properties function and fill the different fields. In the properties section, select UOM as in unit of measure in order to get the engineering units. Once this is done, you can simply click on OK and do exactly the same for the other values you can find on your spreadsheet. In order to make your report more appealing and easier to analyze, you can add some conditional formatting from Excel. You will find this functionality in the Home section under Conditional Formatting. With this kind of formatting, you can add some data bars, some icon sets, some color scales that will analyze different data available in your spreadsheet and identify easily the highest and lowest values. You can also make your own rules in order to identify the values that you want. All of this might not be part of DataLink, but it can really improve your report and make it look a lot more appealing. Once this is done, you simply need to edit your report to make it look a little bit more clean. You finally obtain a clean, easy to understand and dynamic report of your key performance indicators.